Switch over. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brooke.
And my name is Granny.
And this is Granny here today. Thank you for joining. If you're new here, again, my name is Brooke. His name is actually Rawling. And this is a plant channel where we just talk about houseplant things, DIYs, and what have you. So thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. And make sure to subscribe so you can be in on all this granny fun. I thought we would share my philodendron collection. Now, you can't see every plant in front of me, but after gathering them all, I realized I have a lot of philodendron. Yes, they're smaller, they're not super large or anything special, but I wanted to go through them, rate them, and share a little bit about their care. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go in. Let's start. So, over the years, I have become more fond of philodendron. I actually realized that I don't prefer the, I know this is going to be mean, but Monstera line or genus, or Calathea. I was really into Calathea. I still love them, but I'm just not super big on them anymore. I went through an alocasia phase. I love them. I appreciate them, but philodendron is really where I have stuck and where I have found that I love the plants and they are more my style and more my care level. Now you have philodendron that I will share that are more difficult to care for. Then you have philodendron that are much easier care. Let's get in. Which one do you want to start with first? This one. Okay. So this one sitting right in front. This is actually one of my newer philodendrons. This is a philodendron Plowmanii. Plowmanii, and that's its new leaf that just came out right there. This is a beautiful plant. Now, I will say it does require higher humidity. It's got a little bit of leaf malfunction, which could be to a pest. I haven't seen any pests on it, but I think it's because the humidity in where I have it is not great. It sits under a T5 Barina grow light, right on top of it, or right underneath of it, and so it likes the high light. It did go through a little transition period where I burnt some of the leaves here. You can see that this is a burn mark. Wasn't there until I stuck it under the grow light. That happens, and that means you need to move the plant down or away from it. I just kept it there because, I don't know why. However, all the new leaves coming out are perfectly fine and none of them got scorched or anything like that. You can see that this leaf coming in right here is going to be a big guy too. So I like this guy. I think it's a 10 out of 10. Easy care so far. I have it in a chunkier soil like every other plant in my collection, and I water once the soil is completely dry. So I think that the only special care tip on this guy is high humidity. I've never given it a chance to live in a low light situation, so I don't know how it would do. This guy sits again under a grow light and is doing great. So that is my philodendron Plowmanii.
Can I pick the other plant?
Yep, pick the other plant.
This one?
This one? Okay, this one is my favorite. This is a Philodendron Melanochrysum. I actually had this plant on my, quote-unquote wish list for quite a while. Look at that beautiful new leaf. I put this on a grow pole if you saw one of my latest YouTube videos about how to make that, and it's doing great. So this is a climber. It likes high humidity. So I have it sitting up on this shelf in a southwest-facing window, and it's right below or right above my humidifier, which is behind me now. And I keep the humidifier on from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that has helped this guy so much. So I didn't have the humidifier on for a while. I got, lazy, just forgot to turn it on. And it pushed out this little leaf right here. And so it got stuck and then it got all deformed. And it was because of lack of humidity. Once I upped the humidity, this guy started growing like crazy. He's got a new leaf on the way. Again, I let the soil dry completely out. It's in a chunky mix. Highlight for this guy for sure because of those velvety leaves. I have just found that it requires more light. Same with my Micans that I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I give it the highest light I can without being direct sun. But otherwise, this guy is a 10 out of 10. I love it, and I can't wait to see it grow up into this moss pole. It's going to be awesome, and I hope really lush and full. Like, look at those beautiful leaves. It's so gorgeous. I love this plant. Love it. Which one?
This one.
Ooh, okay. This is my brand new philodendron, which needs to be watered. I have not repotted this, so it is in a moss mix, or a peat moss mix, it looks like, just the nursery soil. This is a Buono. It's really pretty. It has a little bit of variegation on this new leaf. This is the newest leaf it's put out in my care, and it's got another leaf on the way. You can see a bit of variegation here in the leaf. It's really pretty. These are beautiful plants. Once they grow to their fullest potential, they are very beautiful foliage, super variegated, white, cream, yellow, green. I just thought it was a fun find. So I got this locally at Suburban Garden or Suburban Plants, which I shared a video about. But as far as care, I let it sit under a T5 Barina grow light. You're going to hear that a lot. And I water once the soil is completely dry. You're going to hear that a lot. I have not had an issue so far with the humidity. It pushed that giant leaf out just fine with, you know, very low humidity in the room where it sits. So I wouldn't say that that is a full issue at this stage. So yeah, pretty, again, easy care. Another plant. This one? Okay. Ooh, this is my silver sword, and it's really tall and long and lanky. Ooh, it can't, yeah, it's still going. So this guy, I'm really proud of. I made this moss pole, or I did not make this moss pole. I put it on this moss pole a couple months ago, and it really stuck in. It has grown by far the quickest and the best on a moss pole. It is really taken in and rooted in to where the roots were wrapped around somewhere. Roots are wrapped around all the way behind and really rooted in. I don't know if you guys can see that. So this guy, super easy. This sits actually right by my humidifier, so that could also be a reason why it does so well. But I really love the foliage. I think it's beautiful. Again, easy care in coarse soil or, you know, whatever. Water once completely dry. I fill the moss pole about every week with water because it dries out really quickly. And it's just done very well for me. This little leaf, this is low humidity. So I would say this is a high humidity loving plant. Now, all of these plants are high humidity lovers, but some of them can deal with lower humidity situations more than others. Again, I think this one's doing so well and growing so large. Number one, because it's growing up on a moss pole. Number two, because it's sitting next to my humidifier and it just loves its life. So I'd say this is a 10 out of 10. Really love the like huge foliage. It's a very beautiful plant. Oh, I should have said that one sits in a south-facing window and maybe gets a little bit of indirect light from the grow lights, but otherwise it is right there all the time, southwest-facing window. This one? Okay, this guy. Now, I actually don't know much about what this guy is, so this is him in all of his goodness. He's very easy care. I actually have him sitting on the opposite side of my little grow set up here in a southwest facing window, but it's about 8 feet back. So it's a lot lower light conditions than some of these other plants. This guy grows like crazy. I got this as a little guy from a shop actually in Washington when I went to visit last year. Brought it home with me. Grows like crazy. Super easy. I honestly don't know what it is. So it says on the tag that it is a philodendron gain. But when I have Googled that, really, I haven't found anything on it. So and it's much different than a Florida green. It's growing like up, thicker stems, which yes, it could be a more mature plant, but I have a Florida green sitting right in front of me that is about the same.
This plant is really pretty, but I love it.
You would give it a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, sure,
Okay, 10 out of 10. But I don't know what it is. So I'd be curious to see if somebody else knows what it is. Maybe there's a different name for it that I'm just not finding. You know, a lot of philodendrons like this kind of all look the same too. I'm not sorry, but it does look similar to the Florida green, but the fenestrations on these are more defined. The points are more pointier, like I'm comparing it right here. The stems or the petioles and internodes are just a lot thicker. It's growing aerial roots way quicker than my Florida green does. And yeah, I don't know. There's some differences, some similarities. Anyways, I let it dry out. It actually is in the same peat moss mix that it came in. I haven't touched it. I couldn't tell you if it's root bound or not root bound. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't mind the lower humidity and the lower light. So it's a 10 out of 10. It's a really fun grower. It's very funky, like how it's all growing like this. So I have it in this cool little planter.
What are you doing, Bonnie?
Okay. Plant do you pick next?
Why is this one back here?
Which one? This is the elusive pink princess philodendron. I say elusive because this at one point was like my main plant to get. I wanted a pink princess. And it was about 2020 when they were really popular and only could be found in small little plugs for like $300, literally. And so I really, like, I will not lie, coveted after this plant. Not good. And wanted one. Then I got one and it's just okay. That's kind of why I don't have plant wish lists or worry about going after plants, is because you get so into it and so like consumed with must have it. You know, it's our human nature and personalities. Sin, but it really isn't that anything great. I don't know what to say. Like, that leaf is beautiful. However, you only get that leaf about every 4 or 5 leaves. So I tell people who are really wanting a pink princess, now they're everywhere for like 20 bucks. Grab one, get it, whatever. However, I would tell people if they are like really going to pay a lot of money for a pink princess, that if they want one, just wait, because if that's with any plant, if you are really like coveting a plant, it's most likely not worth it, number one, because the trends and plant trends change so much that soon you're going to be able to find that plant. I've done it with many. The Melanochrysum I waited on. I've seen that plant many times, and it was a really high cost. I bought that guy for $30. So I waited, and it was, you know, more enjoyable waiting for that and paying a lower cost than I would have paying a really high cost for a smaller plant, and who knows what would have happened to it. So that's kind of how I feel about this. It's an 8 out of 10. Like, again, if it pushed out foliage like that, beautiful. Otherwise, it's fine. I do have it in a chunky soil mix. I let it dry completely out. I have a mother plant that this actually came off of. It's much taller. It's more like my silver sword. And its foliage is basically green. It has a few new foliage or leaves that are pushing out pink, but otherwise it's just a green with pink splashy feel. And it doesn't care about humidity because I don't keep my mother plant in high humidity. I do keep this one in high humidity. It sits under my T5 Barina Grow Light. Now, the interesting thing about this plant too, and you know it just by researching it, is this is a unstable variegation, meaning you are not guaranteed that it will always be pink. So this guy sits in the T5 and it's doing great. I have another cutting that I'll show you. I actually have several cuttings off of my mother plant because that was the problem too. I didn't wait. I bought a plant. It was unhealthy and I had to chop it all back. And now the mother plant just looks like really straggly and sad. The second plant actually died. So every cutting from it is basically what I'm showing you now. But this guy, this sits under a T5 grow light. It is the same cutting, or from the same plant cutting as my previous one I showed you. And look at those leaves. Like, they just didn't grow. They're tiny. That one's super deformed and weird. And they're just green. They're green. So again, that's why it gets 8 out of 10. Lighting, couldn't tell you. My other one sits in a southwest facing window. and it's fine. Like the leaves are normal. They're pushing out, again, a little bit of pink, but otherwise, like, it's just a meh for me now.
My mom loves them and I love them too, but let's go.
This is an 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10 for his reaction to it. I also thought I'd mention this pot. It kind of made me like it more because the roots are pink. So I've put it in this pot and you can see like all the pink little roots. And so that's pretty. What plant do you want to show them next? So this is a Philodendron. It's a Silver Splash. I bought this from the Tipsy Gardener and it's a pretty plant. It sits under my T5 Burle Grow Light. It likes higher humidity. It does better in higher humidity situations. And so, yeah, I would say that this is an 8 out of 10. It's very pretty foliage when it comes out, but other than that, I don't know. It's not into that. I bought this for like $8, literally, and I've seen them go for a lot higher costs. So that's why I love the Tipsy Gardener. And yeah, it's a great plant. It grows quickly. I have cut this off and cut it back. It has really large leaves. Just nothing to write home about. Again, chunky soil mix. It's under my T5 Grow Light. Water once soil is dry. Love it. So this is the Philodendron Florida Green. My little Billietiae. This is the Florida Green. I actually really like this plant. Again, it looks just like the Gain one or similar. The pronunciations and the fenestrations, aren't as pronounced. You can see there, and they're more rounded. They aren't as pointy. This guy is a fast grower. It likes to climb if it could. I kind of just have it trailing here because I think it's pretty. But the leaves are very pretty. They look like a skeleton key type leaf with all those deep like grooves. This guy is easy. Again, I got this at the Tipsy Gardener for $8. And it was a smaller cutting. I think it started like with 4 leaves and it's grown all of this and it has a new leaf on the way. Sits under my T5 Grow Light in a chunky soil mix. Water once dry. Same thing. I would say it likes the humidity because it sits next to my humidifier and it grows very well. I don't really have anything else to say about this. I know a lot of people are into the Florida Ghosts right now, and I think they are very pretty plant, but it's not something that I'm like after at all by any means. I just thought this was a fun $8 purchase, and it really is pretty. Like, it's fun to look at. It's funky. I've seen people growing these up their walls, like the modern Monstera has one growing up her wall, and that's really awesome. It's very pretty. Its leaves get really large. So this guy's fun. It's cool. Little leaves. Again, it's like a funky little plant. It's fun. Bubbly is what I think about when I look at these. Bubbly and funky. A 10 out of 10. Alrighty, this is also from the Tipsy Gardener. Can you find a trend here? This is a Philodendron McDowell. Very beautiful. It is a cross between the Gloriosum. And really, I've already shared about this plant on my Canton video. Really easy care so far. Has a new leaf being pushed out right here. Not as large as the other ones, but it's still very large. This sits in a southwest facing window. I don't, have a humidifier by it, so that could be why it's pushing out smaller growth. I let the soil dry completely out. I put it in a chunky soil mix, and I have not had any issues with it. It's very beautiful. Like, the foliage is stunning. I really love it. It's not as velvety as the Gloriosum, which I, again, shared a lot about this plant in one of my previous videos, so I won't go too long, but it's an easy care guy. I'd say it's a 10 out of 10. It's very beautiful. This is a crawler. Yes, it's a crawler. Okay, believe it or not, this is one of my favorite philodendrons that I own, and it's from Lowe's. This is a neon philodendron, and I love this plant. It's very easy grower, easy care. It sits under a T5 Burle Grow Light. I have not changed out its soil, so it is still sitting in the soil mix that, Lowe's standard, whatever. but it is beautiful. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe because it's so lush. Like, look at that. I think it's gorgeous. I love it. 20 out of 10. Beautiful plant. It is a trailer. It can also climb. And yeah, it's just really pretty to look at. This actually has like a little bit of a Brazil vibe going on. It has a few sporadic leaves in here that are variegated like that, but I think that this is beautiful. I love the variations of green that you get with the darker greens and the lighter greens and like the lemon. It's stunning. I love it. It is very easy. Again, it sits under my T5 Carina grow light, and I water once the soil is completely dry, but love this guy. Love how the new foliage is like this very pinky, pastel-y color and yellowy. Oh, beautiful. I love the stems. I love it. Love it. This is the Philodendron White Knight. Couldn't think of it. And I'll be honest, this is like a 5 out of 10. I bought this plant and I just picked it up because it had the white foliage or somewhat white foliage. And what it's pushing out, it's again like the pink princess. You're not guaranteed that there's white. You're not guaranteed that it's going to be a great variegation. And that's this guy. So you can see that it pushed out a half moon there, which is really pretty. But all of the leaves leading up are just like this weird splashy redness. So I don't know if that's because it is sitting under a T5 grow light and that's too much for it. Like my one pink princess, it's not doing well because the leaves are small. It sits actually right next to the humidifier. I water once the soil is completely dry. All of the same things, but yeah, I'm not into it. Honestly, if someone was like, I want that plant, okay, I would give it to them because, oh, now all the animals are coming in. Somebody else could have a totally different opinion and have this like beautiful, lush white knight, but I'm just not into it. Yeah, I'm feeling I'm gonna chop it actually, because if it was more full and not just one long lanky stem, I would enjoy it more. It does climb. It is clearly climbing, but otherwise, yeah, I'm just not into it. I kind of regret the purchase, but I did not spend that much money on it, so it's all as well. It has pushed out everything from this growth point up. I did have to cut off a few leaves because they were dying and it just looked cruddy. So I did chop them off, but they weren't anything to write home about. They were just green like this. So I really saw this leaf and I was like, yes, this is going to be awesome. And then all of this came out and I'm like, no, this is not awesome. So yeah, this is a 5 out of 10. This is the Philodendron Micans. And yeah, it's really small foliage. I actually accidentally broke this plant in half and it was a lot more full, had a lot more foliage. But when I was watering it one day, I just snapped like half of the plant off. And so I had to propagate it. But this is going to be a 5 out of 10 for me. Well, number one, I'm not giving it the right conditions. It was growing in the right conditions, then we moved, and I just kind of stuck it in an east-facing window, and this is what I get, which that's what I get. Look at this. But otherwise, I would just stick with the Melanochrysum. Like, they have the same velvety leaves. The Micans will get as large as the Melanochrysum if given the opportunity, but I just don't really have love for that anymore. This is just a sad, long plant. And yes, that's my fault. It is in a chunky soil mix, and I water when the soil is completely dry. Now, it is an easy care for plant, I will say that. It deals with a low light situation, low humidity, and gives no fuss besides for having really small leaves. But otherwise, like, yeah, I just don't care so much about it. It is pretty, the shiny little leaves, how beautiful, but yeah, maybe if I gave it the right growing conditions, I would enjoy it more. I just don't. Sorry. Another one of Mommy's favorite plants. This is a 10 out of 10. This is the Philodendron Ring of Fire, and I love it. Look at that. Beautiful. This was very pink when it first started to come out, but I love the variegation on it. It's stunning. It is like fire. It's got the oranges, the greens, the yellows, the reds. Like, it's a very pretty plant. and it's a very easy grower. I have this sitting under my T5 Burle grow light. I actually have it in the same soil mix that I got it from, or with, where I got it from was the Suburban Plants in Mesquite. You can see this new leaf coming out. Like this guy just popped out, but this new guy is going to be really red. It's beautiful. I really thoroughly enjoy this plant. It is done so well and grown so well in easy care. Like it's not a difficult plant to care for. So yeah, it also sits by my humidifier. So that could be why it's doing so well. I know it's why it's doing so well. So given the right growing conditions, this guy is great, and they get really large. So I think this is so fun. 10 out of 10. Again, those funky little like sawtooth leaves. They're very beautiful. I really love this plant. This guy. So this is my just regular old Heartleaf Philodendron. This guy's fine. He's doing great. It sits in an east-facing window. It's gotten very little care. I have repotted it. It's in a chunky soil mix. I, again, don't have this under a grow light. It's an east window, so that's why it went from really large to smaller leaves. But I'm kind of okay with that. It's a very easy grower. Like you can see, it's growing really well. And yeah, it's just a fun, pretty little plant. If you just want a basic green leaf plant, I think this is great. It's again, the leaves are pretty. They're Heartleaf, like it's its name. Just an 8 out of 10 because like it's nothing to write home about. Again, easy grower. I haven't propagated this guy, but I know that they are easy to propagate. Most philodendron are. But yes, it's a pretty little plant for beginners. It would be great because again, like I leave this guy bone dry and it doesn't give me any issues. I think I've had one yellow leaf on this thing in the last like year and a half that I had it. I just bought this from Lowe's one day in their like $5 section. So it's a fun, pretty little plant that I do like looking at. Given the right growing conditions, these leaves can get really large and lush and pretty, but I just kind of stick this guy in a lower light situation, but he's doing great. So this guy is my Philodendron Billietiae, and it is beautiful. It's a 10 out of 10. Sits under my T5 Burle grow light. I don't give it high humidity, and I let the soil dry completely out. This is in the normal nursery potting mix that they have, but this, like again, these philodendron are just so funky. Like their leaves are funky. They just are so fun. All I think about when I think about like this, the Florida green, like my jungle boogie or my ring of fire is just like bubbly fun. Boogie. So this guy, this is the newest leaf that just unfurled. It's very pretty. This is the second newest leaf that unfurled, and it's very beautiful. Their stems or petioles get orange or become orange, as you can see there. So that makes it really fun because the petioles are orange while the leaf is still green. And it's just a fun plant, like easy to care for so far, doesn't mind the lack of humidity, and it sits under my T5 Burle grow light. But I really love this plant. Okay, this guy is my favorite. This is like my little baby plant that I love so much. So this is a Philodendron Burle Marx Variegated. This guy is beautiful. This wasn't on any wish list or a plant that I had on my radar. I got this at a plant swap in Dallas from Fitzgerald Plants, Fitzgerald Tropics. And I just think it's so fun, bubbly, like, okay, look at those bubble leaves. Like, they're so cute. I love this plant. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'd say 10 out of 10. I water once the soil is completely dry. I have it under a T5 Burle grow light. It's pushed out these two leaves in my care, and they're larger, and it's so fun, so bubbly and fun. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, it is cute. I just love how it shakes. Like, it's just so bubbly and funny. It's, I don't know how to explain it, but love this plant. Sits under T5 Burle grow light. Did I say that? I said that about basically all of these guys. Okay,
you sit over there.
Oh.
Okay, this is my favorite plant. It's so pretty. Look at it, so cute. This is Philodendron Mamei. Oh, Mom got this somewhere. I don't know what she bought from Lowe's, but I thought she did, so it's so cute. Look how the leaves are so yellow and brown. Those are actually birthmarks.
Actually, a lack of humidity. 10 out of 10. This is actually, the markings on it are from lack of humidity. I didn't have my humidifier on same time as the Melanochrysum, and it really affected this guy. It's new. The leaf that it pushed out during that period is right there, completely deformed. It killed itself basically. And so the new leaf coming out though looks promising. Like nothing is going on. I have it by my humidifier now. Sits under my grow light. I hope, yeah, that does better. I will say that this is one of my more finicky philodendron. It's probably actually my only finicky philodendron. It's a very sensitive plant, and it's just requires, I think, more care than some of the other ones. I would say that I don't let the soil dry completely out on this because it does like the higher humidity. It likes to stay moist. So this is in its original soil mix. I did not move it out, and I water it once the soil is like probably dry down to here. And I use filtered water, especially. I do not put my normal sink water in this guy. I use filtered water. So I would say this is a more temperamental one in my collection. It's beautiful. It's beautiful foliage. So 10 out of 10 for that. It's just the actual care of it is more difficult. And you can see like the leaf here is very sad. And I treated it for pests and nothing came of it. So I know it's a lack of humidity for this guy. So yeah, 10 out of 10, beautiful plant. Like, I love that foliage. It's so gorgeous. However, it's just going to be a more, special care plant and all of that. So I would say if you have a great humidity and your water is clean and clear and you don't let it dry out too much, I think that this plant is a great plant. So it's very beautiful. It really is. This is the painted lady. I don't know if you can see all that variegation. You can see it right there. So this is a very beautiful plant. It wasn't on my radar. I actually purchased this at Plants and Planters, I think, in Richardson, Texas. But it's a beautiful plant. It's stable variegation. And it's very pretty, large leaves. It dries out. You can let it dry out. I have it under my T5 Burle grow light. It is next to my humidifier, and it grows like crazy. This is a fast grower. It is constantly pushing out new leaves. And to be honest, I have fertilized it once, maybe since I had it, and I've had it for quite a bit now. So this is a beautiful plant. I would recommend. I think that a new plant owner could totally own this plant. I don't know, again, if it does better in lower light situations, because again, it is under my T5 Burle grow light right here. I wish that you could see this in person. And I love just how well it is growing and so close together. It's not, there's actually two plants in this, I should say, but so close together, and it's not like the long, lanky silver sword back here or anything. So love this plant. It's just in a little planter. Again, I have not repotted it, but beautiful, beautiful plant, 10 out of 10. This is the second to last plant.
It's called a Philodendron jungle boogie, everybody. And I love this plant. It's so cute.
That's all you're going to say. Okay, so this is my Philodendron jungle boogie. And if you saw my previous video, don't be alarmed at this. This is normal. Anyways, just like my Ring of Fire, it's the same plant, just the unvariegated version of it. And it grows very quickly. It used to sit in an east-facing window. I did have it in a southwest-facing window for a bit. And that's when I started noticing that all of these markings were appearing. So I think that was stress. And so I moved it back to an east-facing window. It did great, grew a lot, and it's continued to grow. This is a very interesting plant in how it grows. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. It is under a Burle grow light. Shocking. In a chunky soil mix. I am not positive that this likes being there. I'm just going to say it. But I keep it there because I just want to figure out what's happening. So it is in a higher humidity section. It actually sits right here, and my humidifier is right over here. Like right here. And my humidifier is right there. So it's very close to my humidifier on the same level. And the foliage, when it pushes out this one little leaf, but two leaves are coming behind it, and they get stuck, and I have to kind of like spray it down. I unpeel it. It's fine. And then the new foliage is fine, but it's like continuously doing that. So I am not sure what's happening with that. It's not a pest issue. I've checked it for pests. I have sprayed it down. I am not positive if that's just a normal thing. Maybe that's just a normal thing for them. But yeah, this tiny little leaf, which never unfurled, that, but next to these leaves that are actually looking to be larger than this one. So it's very bizarre. So it had thrips. I got rid of them. And since then, it kind of has never produced the large leaves that it was producing. I do let this dry out. I think it actually would not like that. I think that this is one of those philodendron that wouldn't mind staying a little bit moist because I do start to notice when I let it dry out for too long. So anyways, it's never pushed out new foliage. Like this is a new leaf since its thrips issue. So all of this then is new. And I don't know, it's just an interesting thing. So maybe for that, I'll just give it an 8 out of 10 because I'd rather have the Ring of Fire. But it is a super funky, cool little plant to have. They do get large. They actually climb, which is really cool. If you have any knowledge on that, I'd be interested to hear what you think the issue is with the smaller leaf and then the two normal sized leaves coming behind it. We saved the best or the least known for last. I've saved this guy for last on purpose because I actually don't know what it is. It is a philodendron. My husband in 2020 rescued it from his previous employer. They were clearing out the building, all the offices, you know, people were moving to in-home offices. They were getting rid of a bunch of plants, and this was one of them. It was actually in a larger planter, and it was huge. I think, honestly, it was like 4 feet long or longer. Once you laid it all out, it might have been longer than that because it was on both sides. I do have an old Pinterest video showing me kind of cutting it back and taking it down. So anyways, this guy was brought home. It gets very large leaves. So when the mother plant arrived, it had very large leaves, and they were almost like a not pink princess. They were almost like a painted lady leaf, but a little bit more defined and heart-shaped. Kind of like the Burle Marx, but longer and pointier. So I'm not sure what this is. I actually took it into a plant shop when we were living in Washington and had them look at it to see if they could identify it. They could only identify it as like in a family. They think it's like part of the pandiforium. I'll put the word here. A specific category. They thought it was in that family. It does climb. I had it on a moss pole, and it likes, you know, it does well in lower light situations. I actually have 2 pots of this in our guest bedroom, which is a north facing light, and it gets like lower light situations. And they have both grown, and it's an easy care plant. I let it dry out. This has actually been in water for 2+ years, this specific one, and sits on top of my fridge and gets leftover light from a south facing window. So I'm not sure what this is. It's a fun, funky little grower when it is large. So when we moved, I had it on the moss pole still, and I took it out of its lovely window. It was sitting in an east-facing window, and it really liked its life there. I removed that, and I placed it here where there isn't quite that same light. All of my all of my windows are more obstructed versus my windows in Washington were completely open. They were bay windows like all the way around the house, so very open. And so it didn't do well. And so I ripped from the moss pole because honestly, the mother plant was dying anyways when I got it. And so it only started getting worse. And I could tell it was growing new points. So those were doing really well. But the original plant wasn't. It was just slowly dying. So I took it off the moss pole, chopped it all back, propagated it, gave this away to a lot of people. Made a lot of plants from it. Seriously, like 20 different plants probably came from this one mother plant. And yeah, it's interesting. I do kind of want to put it under a grow light in a better situation to see how large the leaves get. I just haven't gotten there yet. I mean, I don't know what I'm waiting on. The roots in this thing are crazy. If somebody knows. And that's the thing with philodendron is when they're so small like this, they all look the same. And so it's very difficult to identify what a plant is unless it gets its large, full, mature leaves. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found this video interesting and seeing all my collection. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can see more of my videos like this. Let me know in the comments what your favorite plant is or philodendron is in your collection. I would love to hear it.
Bye! I hope you enjoyed this granny video, plants. Make sure to subscribe to the granny video, and I'll see you at the granny plant video. Okay, bye everybody!
Okay, bye!